With a small population, you have to understand your opportunities and the limitation within our market space. It's very, very important. And like every other emerging market, Sierra Leone is a very high risk, but a high reward business environment. You will need to have the appetite for your chosen area of investment. Again, I'll step out and say the S&P 500 for the past 50 years does 10%. That's it. If you have a good business in Sierra Leone, you will double your money very, very fast.
I can't hear you.
Yes, welcome to Exposing to Sierra Leone.
I can hear you now.
Your weekly dive into the issues, news, and people shaping Sierra Leone and the diaspora. Each week, join us as we engage with professionals, journalists, and various guests. And sometimes we just will have the two of us to explore ways to propel the country forward. From in-depth discussions to enlightening interviews, we're here to uncover the stories that matter most. So tune in, be part of the conversation as we work together to make a positive impact on Sierra Leone. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the experiences that we recently had at the recently concluded Sierra Leone Diaspora Investment Conference for 2024. I attended in person and Maya tuned in virtually, and we're going to discuss whether or not the event lived up to its promises of addressing real opportunities and challenges in Sierra Leone. Was the conference truly a platform for meaningful dialogue or just another showcase with little follow through? So we'll dive into the key moments, some of the panel discussions and insights shared by business leaders and policymakers, questioning whether the event was genuinely valuable or more hype than substance. So was it worth attending? Did the speakers and panelists offer actionable advice, or was it just talk? So join us as we share our honest take on this conference. But before we do, of course, we like to do introductions. We have the two of us here. So I guess I will kick it off since I've already started. My name is Joe Hatagwa, for those of you who are unfamiliar. I am a Sierra Leonean American who just spent 4 years living on the continent of Africa. I help people move, invest, and visit the continent of Africa. I do talk to people about buying land as well in Sierra Leone, and I have connections for buying land in Ghana. I run a platform called Authentic African, which focuses on telling those stories and making sure people are aware of what's available to them. So that's a little bit about me. I'll turn it over to my co-host.
What's up, guys? My name is Ed Meyer. I am the founder of the Sierra Leoneans Killing It page. Basically, it's a platform where we promote Sierra Leoneans that are killing it positively in our community. We also support by going to events like this event that I virtually supported, and going and attending. I'm also a licensed braider located in Houston, Texas. So if you are in Houston and needing braids, I'm the girl. That's it.
There it is. And so we did just go live on IG, and so now we're kind of going to do a little bit of a reaction and a little bit more insight from that conversation and more. We will play back some video from one of the guests who was there, and then we will definitely kind of talk about what the experience was. So if you guys can hear us, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you put something in. Sorry, let us know where you're watching from, so we know that you can hear us and we know where you're watching from. That video that we just saw was a promotional video, and it's a clip from last year's Sierra Leone Diaspora Investment Conference. That was one of the keynote speakers, if not the keynote speaker for the last one. And so that's what that was. So I think what we can do is we can just start off, because this audience is a little bit different from the audience that just watched on Instagram. So we can give the abridged version since we just talked about it. And then we can react to video. Or do you want to react to the video first, then give the abridged version? What do you think?
I don't know, whatever.
Okay, so this is what we'll do. We will talk about our overall thoughts first, and then we'll react to the video from just like 30 minutes ago, where we had one of the subscribers. Because I think while people are joining, oh, you know what? For those of you who are new, I can also go through a little bit about what the conference was. I think people are starting to join now from Facebook and YouTube. So let's talk a little bit about what the conference was about, and then so you guys are aware. Okay, and then we'll talk a little bit about who Vicky Ramo is, because you guys saw the thumbnail. You saw a person on the thumbnail, but you may not know who she is. So let me give you a little bit about who she is. I did just read this on the earlier live stream, but some people on here were not on that one. So where is Vicky's bio? So let me do this real quick. So Vicky is from Freetown. She was actually born in Sierra Leone, if I'm not mistaken. She considers herself a multifaceted talent and on a mission to reshape perceptions of her homeland of Sierra Leone. She hosts a podcast called Make Sierra Leone Famous. She takes the audience through an enlightening journey into the heart of Sierra Leone's history, culture, and identity. She has a lot of conversations with people working to dismantle the pervasive neo-colonial gaze that has long overshadowed Sierra Leone's post-war narrative. She also is executive producer of the Vic and host of the Vicky Ramo Show, a program broadcast on AYV TV. She recently also did fueled by a desire to help her homeland of Sierra Leone. She raised an impressive $60,000 for COVID relief funds. So that is a little bit about her. Her dedication to strengthening trade and cultural relations between Sierra Leone and the U.S. led her to curate, convene, and co-chair the Sierra Leone Diaspora Investment Conference. This is a groundbreaking conference, in her words, that will strengthen the direct engagement with Sierra Leonean Americans. So that was a little bit about Vicky. Now let's talk a little bit about what the conference is in and of itself. And so basically it had like 6 main objectives of this conference that I attended yesterday. And as I mentioned, and Meyer was able to attend virtually. So the objectives were to explore investment opportunities and share insights on the country's evolving landscape. It was also to harness the diaspora's community skills, knowledge, resources, and networks. She also wanted to build a network of indigenous Sierra Leonean investors and entrepreneurs, promote collaboration and crowdfunding for investment, to connect home-based entrepreneurs with diaspora investors to amplify the impact of the diaspora. So that was what this conference was all about. I went very early tomorrow morning. You see, I still haven't slept. How can I say? Anyway, I went very early yesterday morning. I woke up at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a 4:30 Amtrak ride down to Washington, D.C. for another 45-minute Uber ride to Gaithersburg, Maryland, where I attended this event. And then I returned last night, got home after midnight. So as you can imagine, I haven't had much sleep in the last 48 hours. But getting there, I will say, there were a lot of people there that I ran into, that I know. Shout out to Desmond from Dot Blue. Shout out to Donna from Afro-Caribbean Festival, both of which I interviewed separately. Shout out to Haja from Estu Delights, a former client of mine from my social media agency. And then I met a bunch of new people that I was not aware of. Somebody I even met was on a panel with me for a pitch competition in Freetown at Lincoln University. He was also there, and he has a clothing line, and he has really nice clothes. So I look forward to being able to share that with you guys. So that was my experience. I know you joined virtually. Do you want to share with the folks what that, like, your experience virtually joining was?
Yes. I love that she had virtual tickets available because it came in very much handy for someone like me who couldn't make it in person.
Yeah.
Vicky did an amazing job bringing Sierra Leoneans together. It was amazing virtually meeting so many Sierra Leoneans who are killing it in our community that I didn't even know of. So it was really refreshing to see. Um, I had no idea that funding is available in certain counties for Sierra Leoneans or Sierra Leonean business owners in the DMV area. So that was something that stood out to me that I learned. That was actually really good. So I definitely encourage any DMV Sierra Leonean business owner to look into that. That's a great opportunity to take advantage of. I loved how the panelists were they were encouraging us Sierra Leoneans to open businesses in Sierra Leone and to take risks and to partner up with people. I love that they kept encouraging heavily, like it doesn't matter if you've had a bad experiences, just still give somebody else a chance. Just because you've had all those bad experiences doesn't mean that all Sierra Leoneans are not good to partner with. So I really loved that. Um, one thing I'd like to see next year at next year's event is definitely more information and resources for Sierra
Mhm.
Leoneans who want to open businesses or invest in general. I don't like how some people ignore the dress code of her event. However, I definitely highly encourage like visual content advising us that are attending, people that bought the tickets, to like what to wear, because nowadays unfortunately a lot of us don't read. So virtual I mean not virtual, visual content is better for a lot of us. So
Is
highly recommend that for sure. And lastly, I definitely plan on attending next year's event in person, and I also encourage all of you that are watching now to do the same. It was an amazing experience. I learned a lot, and I got to meet a lot of people. I'm sure it'll be even better in person to network, be able to actually talk to the people or just talk to each other and network in person is always better. So, yeah, I had a great time.
yes, yes to all of the above. I agree with you on all of that. I will say, just to add to that, and we talked about in the last hour, it's like deja vu. But I will say, because I went in person, I had a really good experience in terms of meeting people who I had been wanting to meet. So the representative for USAID, Alexis Butler, she is the director of mission for USAID. That was a really important person that I met. I also met Mary Jallo, who is the project manager for SLEDP, Sierra Leone Development something something something. I don't know what the full acronym is, but she was somebody I wanted to meet, so that was great. I actually got a chance to meet some other folks too, who are doing different things. So overall, it was great. A couple subscribers, so shout out to those subscribers who I met there. I met a couple who just recently went to Sierra Leone, and they're subscribers of Authentic African, and I met another gentleman that I actually did a consulting call earlier this year with as well. So that was also really good. So overall,
Awesome.
it was great to see those people in person and to meet people. Mr. Freetown Revolution says it was a very nice conference. Did you watch virtually or did you go in person? I'd love to hear from Mr. Freetown Revolution. How did you attend the event? So yeah, I will say, and then to some of the other things that you mentioned, right? One of the things that I saw that was one of her goals, right, of the conference, and let's go through the goals maybe, and then I can talk about whether or not I feel like some of those goals were achieved. So just to follow up on your point about like starting the process of just doing this, I think is hugely important and necessary, right? We need events like this as a country. I think in the last hour I had mentioned one of the biggest challenges we have as a country is that our diaspora is siloed, right? Everyone has their own little pockets and we don't work together as a collective, right? And I think that that's one of our biggest challenges as a diaspora and as a country in general, that people are very focused on themselves and their own personal growth and development and don't really focus on how we can grow as a country. But some of the things that she talked about, right, was The idea was to explore investment opportunities and share insights on the country's evolving landscape. I think there was a little bit of that. I think that there could have been more detail into what some of these investment opportunities look like. So, for example, it was mentioned that Pangea, I happen to remember the name Pangea because I have worked with Pangea before. A friend of mine actually works full time with Pangea. Well, I haven't worked with Pangea before. Let me say we had talked about partnering with Pangea with the nonprofit I have, Launchpad Africa, that I'm a part of. And one of the founders of Launchpad Africa works with Pangea more closely. So I am familiar with that company and I know who they are. So I could reach out to them directly and say, if I have funds to invest, I would invest in them directly. Unfortunately, the people listening heard the name Pangea, but there were no details. Who runs it? How do you invest? Who should you be speaking to? None of those things came up as part of that discussion. I think that would have been a good follow-up, just so people can know how can they deploy their capital right now if they feel like they want to. And then outside of Pangea, they talked about the American Embassy. And this is something I didn't talk about in the last hour, but let me tell you about the fortress that is the American Embassy in Salon. It's not like you could just walk up to the American Embassy and start asking questions. All right. So they mentioned using the American Embassy to your advantage. And I would love to do more of that. But as someone who's visited the American Embassy on a number of occasions in Salon, they're not very friendly. It's not very easy to walk in. It's difficult to make appointments and things like that. So I do think it's important to say, for those who work within the embassy, they generally say things like, oh yeah, come to the embassy, talk to the embassy, utilize the embassy. But like, how do you utilize the embassy? Where do you go to set up meetings and who do you speak to? I think are all important. She also mentioned that they have a website. I think it would have been good to mention the website too. So those are the kinds of things that I think for future reference, the people who are hosting those panels should ask that specific question. And then that could be part of the follow-up. Michelle Joyner says, is the virtual recording still up somewhere to view? That's a great question, Michelle. I'm not sure if it is. I would imagine you would need to pay, it may be behind a paywall, or maybe she's going to create content around it and make it available later on MakeSierraLeoneFamous.com. I think that's the website her podcast is on, and I think it's hosted there. So you could probably find it there. Joe Koroma says, facts. Joe, you knew Herman. Oh, this is Miss Joe. Mi pari Miss Joe. I think this is Miss Joe. I know her under a different last name. Shout out to Joe. What's up, Joe? How are you? That's a story for another time. Joe, we'll get you on the live stream so you can tell your story and also talk about your business, Afro-Americ. Mr. Freetown Revolution says, we were the couple that introduced ourselves to you at the conference. Okay, yes. Okay, so there we go. The people that I was talking about. So they're following the live stream. But yeah, so any additional thoughts? I mean, so this is a good example. So they came, and if you guys want to join the live stream, let me know if you guys want to actually join the live stream and give your thoughts. Let me see if I can, since I'll put the link to the StreamYard and you guys can join.
I did want to add something. I forgot. I think I said
please.
On the last live, but I forgot to say it here. Agreeing with what Joe was saying earlier, and adding on to what I said earlier, saying that I would want moving for next year's event, I would want more resources. Like for instance, if I want to buy land in Sierra Leone, I would want somebody like Joe to explain to me the steps, or if there's further stuff which entails paying for the service, he can refer his services as he's talking about, like, basically what he does already on YouTube and Instagram. He gives little gems and like little step-by-step instructions on like who to talk to and things of that nature. So that's what I wanted to add. Like, you would be a great person to be on the panel because you authentically tell us your journey. You even tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. Like your experience, things not to do, things to do, all of that. So you would be like one of you would be a great option for one of the people on the panels.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And you, to add to that, that I think, and as you were saying, I was thinking about the fact that there was mostly positive remarks about investing in Sierra Leone in general. And I obviously it's the investment conference, right? You don't want to just start making disparaging remarks about our own country, right? Because that's what people always do already. But
Yeah.
I do think there are specifics that are really helpful about why it is difficult to invest in Sierra Leone, right? So, like, if I'm going to say you should invest in Sierra Leone, I would say here are the sectors in which you should invest in, or here are the investment vehicles. So, if you want to invest as a person with a particular friend or business, then these are the specific industries that are likely to do well. There's FMCG, that's the fast moving consumer goods, like just like stuff that you buy at like grocery stores, or food restaurants and things tend to do pretty well depending on if people price it right and all that kind of stuff. Small like food kitchens and things like that. And then there are other things like farming and agriculture, which is having some investment in things that you can do. So there are areas in which if you're going to invest, I think that would be where there was some lacking some information and some insight. I took some notes because I spoke to somebody, and that was some of the things he mentioned. He mentioned FMCG. Oh, and in pharmaceuticals, right? Like, it would have been nice to hear like FMCG, pharmaceuticals, and foodstuffs, like those specific details in terms of like what industries you want to invest in. I think, and so that's the feedback that, of course, that I would give. And personally, but also just to kind of give you guys some thoughts. But overall, it was still good to know some of these things, as Admire mentioned. Also, as she said, like, as somebody who's bought land, when I talk about it on these live streams, I'm very specific, right? I let people know what's the difference between buying land in Freetown versus buying land in Bow. Now, I don't know if they felt like that wasn't the right audience to communicate that, those specifics. But to me, I think, it's important to kind of to speak to that specifically, right? Like the specifics of those kinds of things. I think that's what's really helpful for people. And it is Miss Joe. I miss you too, Joe. We'll catch up in December. I'll be back. I will be back. So Kellen, shout out to Kellen. So Kellen got his citizenship in Sierra Leone a couple of years back. He is a real advocate for trying to collectively get Sierra Leoneans all together. He's made many of introductions for me, so I appreciate Kellen. So he said, the conference in DC is great, but I've never gotten a reply from the hostess despite emailing, calling, and reaching out on social media. How can we unite if we can't keep the conversation going? Okay, well, that's Kellen's experience. He says, I can't keep going to the conferences or chambers when the leadership doesn't respect us enough to call back. Yikes. Okay. Well, look, I will say this. I can't speak to your specific experience, Kellen. But I will say that I hope that you are able to get in contact. I think you are a great resource. You are very good at collecting and connecting people. And you are the type of person who should be involved in a conference like this, because you can ensure the right people are there, whether they're on stage or they're in person. So I'm sorry to hear that didn't work out. I hope that in the future you're able to get in touch with her. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't know. I don't want to say anything disparaging. I have nothing to do with that. Oh, I think you're on mute, Admire.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
And to add to what you said earlier, I think also maybe give them time, because planning an event like this, or any event really, it's not easy, and then they're probably busy and stuff. Maybe give them grace, and then like Joe said, hopefully they reach out once everyone is settled, or if they're traveling, once they get to their destination and settle, you will be they will respond to you.
Yeah. And I will say for a while it was difficult for me to get in contact. I think sometimes it's building the rapport over time. But I'm more than happy to make that connection. I'm more than happy to be the bridge, Kellen, because you've been the bridge for me with so many people, for sure. Shout out to Pro Woman who says, yeah, Joe should have been on the panel. I'm sure he'll be next year. I hope so. I hope I'll be on the panel next year. You know, many of the people on the panel were folks that are high-level professionals in the world of nonprofits, etc. They have big titles, PhDs, etc., etc. So I think that sometimes a person like myself gets missed, you know, because, you know, how do I put this? Because my experience is more seen as a person who does social media, as opposed to my experience in general as the reason why I'm doing social media, right? Like I don't do social media because I want to be famous. I do social media to teach people what I went through, right?
Right.
But I think a lot of times when people see me, they go, "Oh, you're the YouTuber, right? You're the YouTube guy." And I'm like, I'm not the YouTube guy. I have a YouTube channel, but that's I'm not a YouTube guy. But I think that's what happens. So I can understand why sometimes that happens. You know, I don't get considered maybe for a panel like this because I am not PhD Joe Hatagwa. I am Joe Hatagwa with a measly bachelor's degree who just bought some land in Sierra Leone, a couple of different pieces of land. But I don't know how much people are aware of the fact that I have 5 acres of land, 4 town lots, and 2 town lots, 3 respective pieces of land in Sierra Leone. I don't know if they're aware of that. So
yeah, I think that's also maybe another idea, bringing everyone from different calibers, um, because you've not only bought land and share your experience, you also help people who have their ancestry information, and it's once it says they're from Sierra Leone, you help them, like resources, even how to get that done, you help. So you help in different avenues, connecting Sierra Leoneans as well with when it comes to that, you know, with their heritage.
absolutely.
So I think that, like the person that commented earlier, I think they will definitely have you next year, because it would be good to have diverse caliber of like people doing different things so they can share their experiences.
Yeah, good point. And Pro Women is just saying now they're aware of the gap in their operations and needs to be patched up. Yeah, and look, I'll also reach out to be on a panel for next year, right? Because also you got to advocate for yourself, reach out. You know, I had mentioned that I was going. I wasn't necessarily sure I was going to be able to attend. As you guys know, I recently had a funeral that I had to deal with, and I've been traveling a lot, and it's been kind of crazy. So I wasn't 100% sure. It also conflicted with my uncle's 80th birthday. And so I had to make an executive decision last minute to not attend his 80th birthday in order to attend this event, and not just to choose one or the other, because I wasn't sure I was even going to go to this event. I had just came back and it's been crazy couple of months. So so I also can understand that. So but next year, hopefully I don't have to deal with another funeral right beforehand, and I would like to be more involved, particularly be on a panel for sure. To be able to speak to my experience, because I do think it's going to be important because a lot of the people who spoke were professionals who are assisting people in certain parts of the process. But we didn't hear a lot from people who specifically went through those processes, right? So I hope that next year we'll have people who have invested a significant amount of money of their own capital into businesses in Sierra Leone. We did definitely hear from people who had businesses though, right? So you did hear from Dana, who did Afro-Caribbean Festival, which I know was very, very difficult for him to do and very challenging to continue keeping up with, which by the way, my interview with him will be coming out in the next couple of months. I'm doing Sierra Leone content in a couple of months, right around December time. So you guys can look out for that. And then they also had, so that was Dana. They also had Desmond from Dot Blue, who I've interviewed on a live stream where he's talked about how he takes stuff back and forth from Sierra Leone to the United States. So there were people who had businesses for sure. I definitely think there were folks that they could have had who've bought land and or invested their own personal cash, as opposed to the how would I describe it? The professionals that are meant to assist with these parts of the process. Dory spoke last year, not this year. So Kellen's talking about Dory from Stafford Lodge. So she had spoken last year. I didn't get a chance to see last year's event, but I do know she was there last year. Dory from Stafford Lodge, who has a company called Salon Hidden Gems. She who I interviewed as well. She was not there this year. Blueprint says, Joe, you mentioned town lots in Sierra Leone. Can you take a quick moment to make sense of town lots to us diasporans? Okay, fair. How do I make sense of town lots to diasporans? Town lots in Sierra Leone. I know I'm Googling it, but I just want to make sure I have the right dimensions. Okay, AI tells me it's 75 by 50 feet. Shout out to the, it's 0.0861 acres, according to Google's AI, and it's 43,560 square feet. So that is what one town lot looks like. And so generally people sell land by town lots. So in Freetown area, I own a little more than 1.5 town lots. In Bow, I have a 4 town lot property. And then separately from that, I have 5 acres in the Bow Kenema area. So those are what town lots look like. And so I am building on one, building has stopped on another, and the other one is going to be meant for agriculture because of its location and because there's a feed salon project, and I want to get involved in that government project. There's funding for that, and I also want to be involved in doing some agriculture in Sierra Leone. I mean, we don't grow our own onions. It was crazy. The price of onions skyrocketed when there was a border dispute between between Sierra Leone and Guinea. That was crazy. So obviously we should be growing our own onions. So that's something that I want to do. And in Irish potatoes, as they call it, I will be growing Irish potatoes as well. Blueprint says, I attended the one last year, wasn't too impressed for the same reasons you all have mentioned, didn't attend this year due to that. Now, to be clear, I don't want to make it feel like I'm making all disparaging remarks. We are just saying, to me, I still think it's worth it to go because I'm the type of person, I spent $1,000 on a course when I had like no money. And there was one little thing from that course. It was mostly fluff and BS, to be honest with you, but there was one little thing from that course that changed my life forever. And it was this $1,000 course on how to build an internet marketing empire, one of these BS courses that people sell. But you know what? There was one little piece of it that talked about this new website called LinkedIn. This was in 2009. It was like, there's this new website called LinkedIn. It's like Facebook for resumes, and I signed up for it, and I ended up getting a 2-year consulting gig that paid me anywhere between $1,000 and $4,000 a week after being on food stamps and unemployment. And my unemployment was running out. It changed my life forever. So
that's awesome.
So I will say, even if you feel like you didn't get a lot from the overall conference, you got to try to extract as much value as you can from it. So for example, even though I feel like the panels didn't have all of what I would have liked to see in terms of the details, I still heard people say things that I was like, that's really important. So like I mentioned earlier, Alexis Butler, who works for USAID, she had mentioned specifically a couple of different things that I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I want to talk to her. So I went up to her, spoke to her for a minute, got her business card. As I mentioned, Mary Jallo, who works for SLEDP, I walked up to her, spoke to her. We're going to have subsequent conversations. And so although I wish there was more information from stage, it didn't mean that I couldn't still get that information by going up to them and talking to them. So to me, it was well worth it. Now, you guys all have to decide what that means for you, depending on where you have to travel from. But I woke up at 3 a.m. and got on a 4:30 train. I keep saying that, I know. I got on a 4:30 train, and I still think it was worth it. And I came back last night. I got home after midnight, and I haven't had much sleep, but I still think it was worth it because of those couple of connections I made. The connections that you can make are invaluable. Even if you don't feel like from stage you've heard everything you wanted to hear, the connections you can make in that audience, because these are all people who have the same mindset. And if you have all these people who are operating on the same wavelength and on the same mindset, who are thinking about the same things, these are the people you want in your circle. You're the combined average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So if you're hanging around broke losers, then you're going to be a broke loser. If you're hanging around people who think about investing in Sierra Leone, who are spending time on that, then you will then find a way to become a person who is of that same wavelength. And if you're not already there, and if you are there, then now you have people that are with you. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, please.
I definitely agree with you. I'm sorry.
Atayasef. That's Maya's favorite phrase. Atayasef. So is that what you're gonna say? I thought that was coming next after that yawn.
No, I definitely agree with Joe. It's worth it. And for me, unfortunately, I'm very sad that I couldn't make it in person next year. No excuses. I'm definitely gonna go. Even the VIP ticket is very affordable. So you should be able to afford to pay to go. And just to be able to be in rooms with people, you never know how, like, what opportunities are there awaiting you. So just go. Going to just network alone is a big deal. Just to see everybody, Sierra Leoneans from all over. That should be enough proof for you to be like, or reason for you to be like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna go.
100%. And pro women trying to keep me on track. You're right. Did you go over the goals and if they met them? I did not. I went over the goals, but I didn't mention if they met them. So again, one of the goals was to explore investment opportunities and share insights on the country's evolving landscape. So yes, technically they did that from a high level, right? They talked about, like I mentioned, Pangea was discussed. The Sierra Leone embassy was discussed. So they did talk about the evolving landscape. They did talk about the fact that years ago it was much more difficult to start a business. They've made it easier to start a business. I would tell you, I went through the process of signing up to start a business, and I was like, my brain was, I was racking my brain. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. There's nothing online.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had to send somebody to the different offices, and I had to just give him money, and he went to the different offices to get all my papers signed to get my business started. It took like 2 weeks. 2 weeks to sign up for this business, where like in the US you can click a button. In Ghana, generally you can click a button, or you can do 2 things. Now in Sierra Leone, there is a much simpler process. There's just kind of 2 parts to it. You have to go to the NRA, and you have to go to, I can't remember the government particular office, but you just go to those 2 offices and then you get your things done, and it's a lot quicker. So they did talk about the evolving landscape. They also talked about the fact that many of the laws and rules were in place based on like 3 or 4 industries that Sierra Leone has almost always been involved in. So that's like rutile and like mining. But some of the things that are specific to rutile and mining do not make sense for agriculture. And so they've made changes to have specific policies for different business sectors. So they did talk about that. The specifics of that, not so much, but at least knowing that from a high level is important to know. So they did talk about those things on a high level. The other thing is harness the diaspora's community skills, knowledge, resources, and networks. Yes, I mean, but that's up to you to do, right? Are you going and talking to people? The couple that I met, I saw them walking around to different people. They didn't just come there and sit down and watch everything. They sat down, listened, but they also went around and met with different people. And, I spoke to them personally. They spoke to other people, and I did the same thing. I went up to different people, got their business cards, spoke to them directly. I did. So like I had like 6 or 7 business cards, and then I have these 6 or 7 contacts that I made specifically, like people who I saw and that I sought out personally, and then people who gave me cards separately from just like exchanging numbers. there was a building network of indigenous Sierra Leonean investors and entrepreneurs. I think the entrepreneur side, yes. I met and talked to a few entrepreneurs that I know, right? And you know them to be entrepreneurs. In terms of the investors, I'm not sure I met anyone that I knew was an investor. Now, it could have been on me. Maybe I just didn't meet them, but I'm not sure I met anyone who was an investor. No one who was on the stage mentioned investing personally in Sierra Leone. There was a woman there who said she bought a business in the US, if I'm not mistaken, right? That lady who on that one of the later panels, but I don't think she mentioned investing in businesses in terms of investing capital into a business in Sierra Leone. There was more like people who work for institutional investment firms, right? So people who work for the World Bank, people who work for SLDIC, where money is being spent through programs that those companies or those organizations are doing. Promote collaboration and crowdfunding for investment. I don't think that actually happened, to be honest. I didn't see that in particular in terms of the crowdfunding for investment. I do know that the Lebanese do that very well, right? They crowdsource and crowdfund within their own community different businesses. And I don't know what the repayment plan looks like or how it works, but I do know that many a time they group together, pull money together, and they invest in their own. So I have seen that. But I didn't see that at this particular event. I didn't see that. To connect to home-based entrepreneurs and diaspora investors. Most of the entrepreneurs I saw there were US based. However, the vendors were Sierra Leonean. So that was something that was met. So again, Estu Delights, which is Haja, they do smoothies and juices locally, and then they also ship honey, like real Sierra Leonean honey, and Fonio, which is vegan friendly. So which I forgot to buy. I was running out of there. I forgot to buy some Fonio from her. So that's on me. But
what's her Instagram?
It's Estu Delights. So you know what? Let's do this. Why don't we head on over? Why don't we head on over to the IG, right? While we're here, I like to see if you're keeping me on track. I need that. Let's see. Present my screen. Share screen. Since we're talking about them, right? We should probably. Yeah. So.
Is it S number 2 or spelled out 2?
No, Estu Delight. It's ESTU DELIGHT. Estu Delight. Oh, I wonder who made these great visuals. It must have been a company called Authentic African Media. Anyway, this is a former client of mine. So my social media manager was making some of these. I filmed this video here, which is not that great. I didn't film it. Sorry, I made this video. They filmed it. I just took it and made the edits. That has some music in the background. That is your boy's hand right there, boy. That is me. So yeah, this is a former client of mine. That is not my hand. But this was me going through and just kind of highlighting their products. Oh, even this call to action is me. Shout out to Authentic African Media with call to actions after videos are over. Practicing what I preach. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, if you check out their page, you see all this content here. I'm the one who made a lot of this content, but they really do have good juices. And I also restructured their page so that it's easier to find when you are shopping for them online. But yeah, this is Estu Delight. So shout out to them. They were there in person. I definitely recommend them. They're no longer a client of mine, but yeah, good.
Definitely, when I go to Sierra Leone, I will try them out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a juicer, so I had a couple of their juices, but I also had someone at my house. So there was one more question one more thing, to amplify the impact of the diaspora. That was done too. So all in all, I would say with the goals, they definitely hit about 60% of the goals, and mostly from a high level. I think it could have been more detailed and specific. So Kellen saying, I had a good time, met some new people, just like to keep it going and bring all the resources together. So he went last year. Kellen went last year. I agree with that, especially if you have some coins to spend, meaning to go. Blueprint says, we'll definitely go if you are on the panel next year. Well, shout out to you. Thank you. And Maya Don Taya, okay, when you were Yana. And by the way, this is a Ghanaian speaking Creole. Look at that.
Okay,
then. Kellen says Joe can probably help with that too. I'm guessing, bridging the gap and making sure they cover everything. It was very easy in Freetown to open a bank account and business. They came to our room for the bank. Okay, so now Kellen, the reason why
I'd love to connect with Kellen.
Yeah, now the reason why it was easy for Kellen is because Kellen went and got his citizenship, and through that process, they make it easy for those folks to start a business and open a bank account. They bring in the EcoBank representatives, and they bring in the representatives from the government, and they actually give you the documentation and paperwork there. They collect it from you and then do it. It's very different from other people who are just going and trying to navigate the process. So I do want to just be very clear. But Kellen will DM you directly, Admire, he says.
Okay, no problem.
Pro Women was laughing at I can't remember what we were talking about. But yeah, so overall, I thought it was a success for her. And I think just overall, like I said, it's important to get the conversation going, right? And to do things multiple times, like to do it every year now, it looks like it's going to be a yearly thing. It's not an easy thing to do. So I don't want to be dismissive about the fact that there were certain things that I'd like to see different. It doesn't mean that it wasn't well worth attending and then it wasn't a great event, right?
Right.
So I do just want to make mention of that, so it's not seen as that. But as far as the bank coming to you, Sylvester and Hannah, shout out to y'all. That was only for the people who went and got their citizenship. So again, Sylvester, if you want to go through that other process, because Sylvester has Sierra Leone in his lineage as a Black American, but he's also married to a Sierra Leonean. So there's two ways he could potentially get citizenship. There's one way that's a lot cheaper. There's another way that's a little bit more expensive, but you can have all this process come to you. I didn't realize that they're here and they're behind the stage. So I want to try to bring them on. Sorry, I didn't notice that you guys were there. I don't know how long you guys were there, but I want to see if I can bring you guys on, but your camera's not on. Are you there? And can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. We just got back from the conference. We just flew in. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, guys. So so love to hear from you. How was the conference to you? What were your thoughts? Just overall, what were your thoughts of the conference? Sorry. Can you introduce yourselves first, then tell us what your thoughts of the conference were? Sorry.
Yes. My name is Hannah Dockery, and I attended the conference with my husband, Sylvester Dockery. I am a first generation Sierra Leone American. My entire family was born in Sierra Leone, but I was born here. And my husband, I met him when I was in high school, and I took him to Sierra Leone for the first time in December. And we got back for his birthday in February. I gave him an African ancestry, and not knowing that it would come back Sierra Leonean. So we attended after going in December. We attended because we were like, I was thinking, okay, maybe we should do a business in Sierra Leone. I was like, it seems like it'll be very difficult, but I'm interested. We had a conversation with different family members. I think my uncle, some other people came over to the house and we talked, and everybody was like, oh, well, this happened to me in business. This happened to me in business. So no, I'm not interested. And I was like, but there's still opportunities. And so going to this conference, I just wanted to see who else was interested like I was, what opportunities were available. And like they said, who else could I maybe partner up with or, get assistance in trying to figure out and navigate Sierra Leone.
That's awesome.
And so, and how did you feel about it? So I know you went there with that mindset, but did you feel like you walked away with that? And like I said earlier, I think your experience was probably different from someone who just sat and watched the panels and didn't go around and talk to people. But I know that you guys did do that. So what was your experience coming out of the conference, knowing that you guys did like go and seek out people to talk to? Excuse me.
Well, I've been to several conferences before. This is the first time I've been to this conference here. And so after speaking to her assistant and, her telling me this is the second one they had, I understand some things may not have gone perfectly, but at the same time, I think that she had an amazing selection of panelists. Very, like you said, there were doctors, there were different people there, and sometimes it could be a little intimidating, but at the same time, they all were open-minded. They all were open to speak and talk and give advice. I would recommend, anyone that was interested in doing business in Sierra Leone to have attended that conference, because I think I came back with, lots of contacts, lots of people to network with. I even went ahead and got the VIP tickets as well, because I know during the conference, it didn't seem like it was a lot of time to actually network as much as I would have liked to, but I did still make sure I made my rounds to people that I maybe saw, like, when we saw you, I was like, well, let me make sure that I speak with him. And, anybody else that you try to point me out to speak with. I didn't get to everybody, but I did try to, speak to as many people as I could. And we did do the networking event later on and had some chances to speak with some other people. So I think that was amazing.
Okay, yes, talk about that. Since I didn't have the VIP ticket, I bought my ticket a little bit late, and I also had to get back on an Amtrak at like 8 p.m. So I made a pit stop and then left. What was that like? So there was, so just for all of you guys who aren't aware, there was a kind of like a happy hour thing for the VIPs separately from the conference at another location. I think it was a West African restaurant. So what was that experience like? What was that? How was that for you guys?
I think it was great because, like you said, I had an opportunity to get and try some of the different products from different Sierra Leonean companies that were vendors at the event. So we did have a sampling of some of their products. I haven't tried everything yet, but I did get to try the ginger beer that they had. It was really good. And the cassava chips that were really nice. Also, I had opportunity to I think most of the panelists were VIPs. So I had an opportunity to sit with them. So that's where my conversation of networking with people started. I actually was sitting at the table with Florence, and she was definitely a resource. I believe she was with SCORE. So definitely she had so much information to share, especially when she was talking about SCORE and just a wealth of knowledge that people have. And I could share with you about, starting a business here so that you can be able to have the funds to be able to start your business in Sierra Leone. So I definitely got her contact. I followed her on LinkedIn, and we definitely talked for a really good time. So I think that was awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just she was on that last panel, right? Florence Freeman, she's an entrepreneur and business coach at SCORE. She has 25 years in business. She's real estate and nonprofits. She's held leadership positions in medical organizations, co-owned the early childhood education companies, and managed a real estate portfolio in the U.S. and in West Africa. Now retired, she teaches business management at the University of the People and mentors entrepreneurs through SCORE. With international experience and an MBA, Florence values diversity and is dedicated to helping others succeed. Okay, cool. So you got a chance to meet a lot of people. So, I think you further underscored, I think, the point that I was making, that it really is about you making sure you maximize what you gain from the experience, right? You guys went around and met with people individually. Sylvester and I exchanged contact information later on. When I spoke to you guys, I gave you some names of folks to try to talk to, just basically hearing what your story was and what you wanted to work on. I'm interested to hear if you found affordable shipping, because that's a question I think we all have. Can you find affordable shipping to and from Sierra Leone? Did you find the answer to that by any chance?
what's crazy is when we left, we caught our Uber to leave. We actually met another Sierra Leonean, and he does shipping as well. And he was actually saying that he was leaving Friday. And I think sometimes you have to tell people what it is that you want or you aspire to do. And we were talking to him. Well, actually, we were quiet in the vehicle at first. We were just tired from the weekend. But he said that he ships too, and he was going to Sierra Leone, and he was like, yeah, I may be able to find, some tailors or some things to help you out with the business that you want to create. So like I said, how you said, you have to just be proactive when you go to these type of conferences. And like I said, my goal was to say, hey, let me at least reach out to about 5 different people. And I think that me stopping and speaking with you and how you were like, hey, these people are the ones that would help you in what you're trying to do. And I think that, like I said, being proactive, at least making a goal of saying how many people you're going to reach out to. And those people may point you to, other people that'll help you out, but still working on the shipping. Once he tells me what he has going on or how he can help me, I'm going to go from there. But like I said, I'm going to make a list and keep in contact with them.
Nice. Well, I wish you the best of luck on that shipping journey, because I haven't found it yet. Well, not quick and affordable, right? Because you could definitely get it there in 3 months for sure. That's affordable. But if you're trying to get it in 10 days or a week, that's the tough one. That's where I'm still finding challenges. So if you do find it, please share the resources with me, and I'll make sure to share that with folks as well. I think that's the biggest challenge that people have. So there's a place called Affordables, a restaurant on King Harmon Road. And they ship from the UK and they ship from the US. And they've had a physical shop long enough that they know what people buy, right? But that's also taken trial and error. And that means that they've shipped stuff that people didn't want from time to time. And so they've taken those losses, right? So what I saw from them, so I don't like that kind of business. I do low margin business. So I've run drop shipping e-commerce websites before, right? Where I only purchase the item wholesale when somebody buys it from me retail, right? So there's no overhead sitting in a warehouse somewhere where I got to try to figure out what people want. My biggest challenge with shipping to and from Sierra Leone, and I guess that's something I could say on a panel too, is if you want to get things to people quickly, you generally have to ship in large lump sums and house it somewhere, and then hope that you have purchased all the things that people want to buy. And so for me, that was the biggest challenge that I had, is that if I want to sell different things that are adapters or keyboards, like a MacBook keyboard or a separate screen, all those kinds of things that people tend to want to use, but there aren't going to be 100 people that want to use them, maybe 1 or 2 people. How do I find a way to buy one at an affordable price and also retail it to someone else, but also get it to them quickly? And so these are all challenges that I have found in my experience, which is what slowed down my Authentic American, which is something that some of you guys who followed for a while will know I talked about back in I think early 2022. I had this great idea called 2023 called Authentic American, and it did not pan out because of that same challenge. I started talking to some of the vendors that you might have met and that were there. I talked to other vendors, and it was just cost prohibitive as a business. If you are just an individual who wants to just ship 1 or 2 things here and there, I found that with those folks it made sense. But you have to ship in bulk really to make it make sense cost wise. So that's just been my experience. So that's what I was trying to say to you guys when I met you guys. I was like, if you find it, please let me know, because I have not as of yet. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I have to say. So thank you, Sylvester and Hannah, for joining. Do you have any final thoughts before you go?
Thank you guys for joining us.
The only final thoughts that I have is I definitely see myself attending this conference next year again. I'm going to reach out to everybody that I spoke with, and even the people that were in the brochure. I'm going to make sure that I, send a note if I did not speak to them as well. But like I said, I think they had an amazing panel. I think she did a wonderful job. And, you know, everything's not going to be perfect the first, the second, the third time. And that's one thing that they did mention, saying that it might not be perfect, but where can you come in to help? I mean, I think that people shouldn't just complain about what's going on. I think they should always say, well, what solution can I bring to help and make it a better conference? So I'll just leave with that. And I think about that as well. Like, what can I do to make it a better conference for next year to assist? So.
Agreed. Well put. Well, thank you for joining, both of you too. Yeah, so we'll catch up soon. Sylvester, I got your number, so we'll talk. Oh shoot, I just cut him off. He was just talking. Sorry, Sylvester, you were saying. Sorry. We lost him. They hung up. So yeah, no, we've been on for over an hour on this live stream. This one went a little longer than the first one. We are on a marathon today. Do we still want to respond and react to homegirl? What am I?
At this point, we already did it over. There's no point.
Yeah. I'll say what she said. One of the things, Spear Warrior, shout out to Spear Warrior. Been a long time. Gerald, aka Spear Warrior. We met in Sierra Leone one time at Mom's, which no longer exists, my man. I don't know if you know this, but Mom's no longer exists. Gerald, Mr. Spear Warrior. No, it wasn't a waste. I would say it was not a waste. No, it was not a waste. It was worth it. But you know, you get out of it what you put into it, right? And so, as what Sylvester and Hannah mentioned, they got a lot out of it because they really went around and did all the work. Kellen also mentioned, if SCORE helped you, make sure to check out Apex Accelerators, free help like SCORE and SBA, all great for entrepreneurs. So I think that's for you, Admire, since you had mentioned, well, no, that wasn't for you. That was for, that's for Sylvester and Hannah. So they had mentioned that they met Florence from SCORE and she was helpful. So Kellen's given some additional advice. Pro Woman said there's a tourism opportunity to include visits to Gullah Geechee land in Beaufort, South Carolina that needs to be developed, especially by those with new Sierra Leonean citizenship. Yes, I agree. You know, there are some, if you know anybody who wants to do that and wants to focus on that, definitely let me know. There are 3 different people that I've met at 3 different stages of my life. One is a cousin of mine who grew up in Kenya, who teaches at a university in South Carolina, and she came with some Gullah Geechee folks to Sierra Leone. So that's one person. 2 is Jay Cameron, who is traveling with a bunch of people to all parts of the world, including to South Carolina to go through Gullah Geechee history and all of that. So that's another person to talk to. And then 3 is Traverse Culture, Kia Wakesho Simmons, who I interviewed, who is moving to Kenya, but her and her group also do trips, and she is trying to do some work with the Gullah Geechee as well, because she's also Gullah Geechee. So, so yes, there's definitely a lot to explore there, and there are 3 major resources. So Pro Women, if you want, just shoot me a message, and we can figure out how to get you in touch with those folks, or anybody who's watching, if you're interested in trying to figure out how to put something like that together, because you have a person on the ground, and you have 2 different people who are bringing people there. So that I will say. Going back to the video that I was going to play, but I'm not going to play now, which is a clip from the live stream we did a little earlier. There's a young lady who attended the conference who sat at my table. We sat at the same table. We sat at the same table.
You're tired.
I am very tired. We sat at the same table, and she had mentioned that she's here and she goes to NYU, and everybody she had talked to, or a lot of people she talks to here in the US from the Sierra Leone diaspora, all they do is complain about Sierra Leone. And they spend money putting together events to complain about Sierra Leone, as opposed to putting money together to invest and to change Sierra Leone. And then what I added was a little piece of like, but a lot of that is self-serving, right? A lot of these people are hoping that the events that they put on, the communique that they put out, will eventually lead to roles in the government that is the opposition government at that time, right? So apparently there were a lot of people in the days that APC was in power. There were a lot of people in the SLPP side putting together events and, being a part of the opposition, much like you might see with Turning Point USA in the United States, opposing against the current administration in the US, similar type things. But in that sense, what we hear is that those people were hoping to get roles in government. And some people say that they were successful in doing so. And so a lot of times it's self-serving. And it seems as though she was mentioning that there are folks in the APC party doing the same thing. People that she knows, she said somebody that she's close to, or somebody she knows closely or knows well, was doing the same thing. And they themselves said $125 was too much to go to a conference. Meanwhile, they're spending money to gather and talk about how much they hate the current administration in Sierra Leone. And to me, I think the two don't align, right? If you really care about changing Sierra Leone, then you have to do it yourself. Be the change you want to see in the world. You know what I'm saying? That's why politicians speak. Pro Warriors, a Spear Warrior says, sad, I saw mom's bar is gone. Yeah, it's gone for good. They demolished that thing. Pro Woman says, will do. I'll be in touch about this show. Hope one of those people can be at the conference next year. Well, I'll make a recommendation. I know that the host of the conference, Vicky, interviewed the sister of one of them who lives in Freetown on Make Sierra Leone Famous. So there's already a connection to the family. So, maybe there's a potential to make another connection and see if we can get some Gullah Geechee people represented at the conference. Because I do think that that's a part of the diaspora that we have been disconnected from. You know what? That was something that came up today. We forgot to mention in the last hour. That came up at the conference. There was a Black American who moved to Sierra Leone, who started a agriculture business, if I'm not mistaken. And he was saying that we need to do a better job of connecting with those folks. I think there's a lot of folks, and that's something that I've tried to do with this platform, right? Is try to connect as much as I can the folks that are further removed from Sierra Leone by multiple generations, like 5, 6, 7 generations removed from Sierra Leone, versus those of us who are like 1 generation or 0 generation removed. I think we do need to do a better job of pulling this all together as part of the diaspora.
Yeah.
Not like those who just recently left Sierra Leone and then all the other people. We're all the diaspora and we should all be working together. So that's another good
thing. I agree.
All right. This has been long. Any final thoughts, Ed Meyer, that you have?
I think I've said it already earlier. That's it. I can't wait to be at the event live next year. I will not be buying the virtual ticket. I encourage everyone to go. I think even from seeing from a virtual point, I think it would have been a great idea. It would have been a great event if I went in person, even greater. I would have been like you and the couple, like getting cards, because I always go to events like that. Bronner Brothers hair show, like in my industry, the beauty industry, I always go to events, and the goal is to get as much business cards as you can get. So I definitely agree with her on that. Get as much as you can, speak to as many people as you can speak to. It's not just to go and be cute. Like, you have to actually walk around and like talk and network and introduce yourself, because you never know what they may have for you. That's how I've got to do like people like Tiana Taylor's braids, Iman Trumper at the time, like, because I was always like out and talking about the services that see, I'm tired. The services that I offer and how I stand out from other braiders and things of that nature. So I definitely encourage you all to attend her event next year for sure. We will see you there because I'll be there. Joe will be there.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes. So Kellen is just saying that he messaged you on IG as promised. So
okay, I'll check it as soon as I can. I haven't checked it yet, but I got you. Thank you for sending the message.
Yes, and then my final thoughts are, I mean, look, I think you just said it all. Sorry. It might seem like I have a lot of energy, and it's because I'm running on fumes. Sometimes I do that. I don't know how it happens, but I do. But I'm tired because you can hear by my speech. But yeah, so anyway, thanks again, guys, for joining. It's been a great conversation. We will be going live again next Sunday. We're not sure what the topic is, but we'll know early this week, and we'll go live again. I am going live tomorrow to interview Aisha Ladan, who is a genealogist and understands all things genealogy. In fact, she was the first person that put me on to the fact that Black Americans could get their citizenship in Sierra Leone, and I did a live stream with her. But we're going to talk tomorrow about how she was scammed and hacked by Nigerians and what you can do to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. Those of you who are getting your citizenship and are planning to go to Sierra Leone and to Ghana and to Nigeria, we're going to talk about what happened to her and make sure it doesn't happen to you. So make sure you stay tuned tomorrow at 9 p.m. GMT, 5 p.m. Eastern to hear about that. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to both platforms. Sierra Leoneans Killing It is on YouTube, so go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. We're also on Instagram, Authentic African. Sierra Leoneans Killing It is on Instagram, TikTok, and all the things. So make sure you follow across all platforms, and make sure you share this with anybody you know who's either planning to attend a conference or wants to know what's available to them in terms of investments in Sierra Leone. So with that, guys, thanks for watching. See you all on the next live stream.
See ya.
Bye, guys.